So Greg stared deep into my soul recently and said, okay, we need a review this month. You have two choices. You could do Twilight, that stupid vampire movie, or we could do Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I looked into his soul and said, do you know how much I hate vampires? Vampires suck.
Meh.
Oh, thank the goddess. For a second there, I thought you were one of those Twilight fangirls. Hello, my name is Hunter, the movie reviewing horse, because when it comes to cinema, humans cannot be trusted. And neither can vampires. Yeah, I'm doubling down on that. I fucking hate vampires. They're stupid. Ghostbusters. Mada fucking Ghostbusters. How can you not go through your life without knowing about Ghostbusters? This is one of those staple movies that everyone needs to see at least once. It's like if your friend says they've never seen Ghostbusters, you're like, what? You've never seen Ghostbusters? Sit your ass down in that chair. I'll get the popcorn. We're gonna watch us some Ghostbuster. Ivan Reitman had an incredible vision for a sharp, witty team of ghost hunters, and his success launched a multi-billion-dollar multimedia franchise from one film. One film. They had video games, board games, comic books, a clothing line, and let's not forget, you are never, ever getting this song out of your head. In 1989, Ivan tried to wow us again with Ghostbusters 2. He even had the same two writers, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, which were also stars in the film, but it did way less good. People didn't like that one. I mean, it was okay. It was passable. It wasn't as good as the first one, but I don't see why everybody hates it so bad. You know, unlike the 2016 movie, which you can see very clearly why everybody hates that one so bad. And Sony, they tried to argue. They tried to brush off all of our criticisms like, it was a great big mess. Just this horrible, horrible PR nightmare for everybody involved. Even Paul Feig, the director, he had this obnoxious smile on his face, but he just feels like he's dying on the inside, but he's trying to make the rest of us die in the process.
And I thought the internet was harsh.
Why? Everyone involved in this, it was just a whole big mess, especially Paul Feig, who pisses me off. This brainless, dickless, hopeless, spineless man.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Their tie-in video game didn't do well either, and I'd like to talk about it because it's funny. It was this dumb, top-down, 4-player dungeon crawler piece of shit game. I played this. It's awful. 3 days after they released it, Fireforge Games, the developer, filed for bankruptcy and ended up being $12 million in debt. You can't even buy the game anymore. I mean, like, why would you want to? Only 4 people bought this game, I think, and I'm one of them. This was it. It was over. This was the final nail in the coffin for Ghostbusters. A disaster of epic proportions from which it would never recover. They would need some kind of miracle to bring this franchise back from the brink, from the disaster that was Ghostbusters 2016. Surely they can't pull something like that off. Surely. Ghostbusters Afterlife, a movie that set out to do the impossible. Finally give us a Ghostbusters 3. We knew that this was in the works for a while before we actually got a trailer, but the first trailer we did get was very, very late 2019 with a prospective release in 2020. And I think we all know that that wasn't gonna happen. This is another one of those movies that kind of got swept up in a whole, slew of movies that just got canceled because of the pandemic. So instead, they gave us delay after delay after delay after delay until finally we got a release November last year. Yeah, I know, I'm late. Shut up. I really want to talk about this movie. Now, I did an impressions video on that first trailer, but reactions to this were actually pretty favorable, all things considered. Jason Reitman, or is it Reitman? I'm probably butchering that name. Anyway, Jason, son of Ivan Reitman, director of the original Ghostbusters, is directing this movie. But Ivan is still on as producer for this movie. And on that topic, Ivan lived just long enough to see this movie do well. This was the last movie he ever had a hand in. Jason was also one of our 2 writers, so not only was our writing and directing and production team, in good hands, we got, the old guard back for this, but they were also very, very careful in the marketing. They're like, okay, we're not gonna do what 2016 did. We're gonna bring in the original guys, but it's not gonna be like this dumb cameo. Guys, the 2016 movie had Dan Aykroyd driving a fucking taxi cab. And I'm pretty sure they killed Bill Murray in that movie. After the 2016 movie was just such a letdown, disappointment, virtue signaling nightmare, the bar was set impossibly high for this movie. They needed to get this one right, and it feels like the production company knew that they had to get this one right. Otherwise, it would be the final nail in the coffin for Ghostbusters. And there ain't gonna be no ghost afterward either. Somehow I avoided every single spoiler for this movie for the past several months, despite, it being out for a while. In fact, even longer if they bothered to invite me to CinemaCon. I would have told you the movie was good if you invited me, but no, I tactically don't get access to these movies early because I tend to actually critique things now and then. Again, this is a good movie, just so we're clear. Going into this movie, we need to accept the fact that there will never be a true Ghostbusters 3. Yes, Ghostbusters as a franchise is still very strong, but it's been too long. Harold Ramis is dead. The 2016 movie kind of killed the mood. And the 3 Ghostbusters we have left haven't really aged too well. Except Ernie Hudson. Wow. Wow, Ernie. Wow. He's 76, but look at him. Wow. How do you do it? Anyway, getting off topic. But this movie came in and said, yes, I know all of that. But fuck you, hear me out. This movie is very aware that the only way we're going to get more Ghostbusters is with a new generation of Ghostbusters. And not one that comes in and spits on the legacy of the previous Ghostbusters. In my impressions video, I kind of pieced together that we'd be following the daughter or the granddaughter of Egon, and that was spot on. This is the next generation of Ghostbusters. But, they ease us into it. It's not even like they're officially the next generation of Ghostbusters. It's the writing team feels like, no, you have to earn the rights to wear those Ghostbuster overalls. These kids, they have to come into this movie, they have to pick up the pieces of the original Ghostbusters movie and try to fit them back together. Now, the key difference between this movie and the 2016 movie is that this movie manages to fit together about 500 million more pieces. It's not all there. It's not quite all put together there. I love this analogy when a movie can't really, like, it has all the right pieces, but it can't really seem to fit them together. Like, this movie manages to fit together a lot more pieces than the original. It's still not quite there yet, because, again, there will never be a perfect Ghostbusters 3. This movie gives off a much different vibe from the original Ghostbusters movie, because, again, we'll never capture that feeling again. This feels, it's more like Stranger Things, honestly. And if we are gonna have a new generation of Ghostbusters, you want them to be, you know, somewhat quirky and unique. 2016 tried to do this, but they couldn't quite get there. It didn't work out. In this movie, our Brainiac is a social outcast. The other one, who is more heavily involved in the Ghostbusters stuff for the majority of the movie, is also a social outcast. They call him Podcast because he runs a podcast. We never actually get his real name, which is actually kind of cool. I love it when they do stuff like that we never actually get their name. And then a little bit later, we get Finn Wolfhard comes in, who's been playing the brother this whole time. He's been fixing the car, and we kind of rope him into our antics. And then a little bit after that, our fourth character is like, all right, interesting hobby you guys have picked up. I want in. It gets a little bit fan servicey at times. Actually, it gets excessively fan servicey at times. But at this point, I'm like, do that. Be fan servicey. It's been a while. We need that. You guys really screwed it up in 2016. Say you're sorry. Say it! And they do. It's also the whole movie is just this really big, awesome tribute to Harold Ramis. And just this awesome character that he brought to life in the first two Ghostbusters movies. This Brainiac who collects molds, spores, and fungus. It's really well done. Even if they had to recast him, which they did recast him, like, for, like, a bit at the beginning of the movie, and then parts where he appears as a ghost, but I'm kind of okay with that, because, like, they're absolutely not going to do more with his character after this. This is just the send-off. One last goodbye. And it's handled very well, very respectfully. We also have the cast to back this up. Carrie Coon is very good. She's playing the lead. Finn Wolfhard, he's kind of not there for most of the movie, but he's all right. Paul Rudd is like, whatever, it's Paul Rudd. He's in everything. So, like, you know, obviously he can act, but everyone alongside Paul Rudd is, everyone did a really good job. Bill, Dan, and Ernie came in towards the end to kind of give it their blessing, but also there were a lot of other relatively big names in this movie that I didn't even notice. I had no idea that was J.K. Simmons until I went onto IMDb and they were like, oh, by the way, that's J.K. Simmons. I immediately, however, recognized Shorey the woman who played Avasarala in The Expanse is in this. She's playing Gozer, and, like, I recognized her immediately because she has one of those voices that you just recognize immediately. Well, and even if she only has, like, less than 5 lines, like, she's a great stand-in for Gozer. It's very well done. Also, there's just something funny about Josh Gad, the guy who played Olaf in Frozen. They had him doing the voice of Muncher, but all of his lines kind of just amounted to... You know, something like that. I don't know, he deserves it, alright? He was in Pixels. And again, it was really cool seeing, like, the 3 Ghostbusters we have left come in just to give this movie their blessing. Dan Aykroyd's doing very well for himself. Bill Murray has probably aged the worst out of all of them. But Ernie Hudson... Oh, that man has aged like fine wine. Mother of God, he looks good. He's 76. Look at him. I could only hope that I look that good at his age. Annie Potts is also back playing Janine, another very, very recognizable voice. Also, mid-credits, we had just a great scene with Sigourney Weaver. It was absolutely fantastic seeing all the old actors back in this movie, and it's handled very, very well. Way better than 2016. You know, where they killed Bill Murray. Hunter, why do you keep comparing this to the 2016 piece of crap? Because we need to do better. Ghostbusters deserves better than the 2016 movie. A really good start that we have with that regard is they don't even acknowledge the 2016 movie. It's completely non-canon to this movie. In fact, at one point, Dan Aykroyd says that they turned the firehouse into a Starbucks. Even though in the post-credits scene we see that the firehouse is still there, so I don't know what that was about. Kind of a weird continuity error. It's also that post-credits scene where Ernie Hudson does a really good monologue, but we also get like the tiniest hint of a sequel to this movie, which I am not entirely sure where we can go from here. I feel that this capped things off really, really well, but if we really want to do another generation of Ghostbusters and like you actually get a pretty decent plot for another Ghostbusters movie and you keep it grounded like you did with this movie, I'd be willing to dust off the proton pack again. Literally, dust off the proton pack, because that's what we had to do in this movie. There's a scene in this where Callie has to get it working again. It's like, why are the pieces missing? How did you make this so small? Why is it covered in dust? And then we actually get to fire the damn thing, and it is actually really, really good seeing a proton stream in, like, full HD graphics. Like, full Hollywood HD. None of that remastered crap, which, let's face it, never looks good. What a nostalgia trip. That's another thing that this movie does really, really good, is it's riding off of its own nostalgia. But it's doing it in such a way that if you didn't see the original Ghostbusters, this would make you want to go see the original Ghostbusters. That's a thing, too. I feel like this movie could stand on its own. Like, you don't have to see the first movie, or the second one, for that matter. This is a decent entry point into the franchise, and at this point, Ghostbusters really, really needs that, because it's been a while. Finally, a Ghostbusters sequel that can stand on its own and actually get younger generations into the franchise. One that has some friendly little nods to the original, one that sticks to its roots, and one that manages to, you know, move the franchise forward. So what didn't go well? Well, the screenplay's not great, and of course there's the excessive fan service. There's some egregious product placement as well. Like, there's a scene where he just goes to Walmart. It's Walmart. Walmart is a product placement. We're in a town in the middle of nowhere. Great setting, by the way, and there's a Walmart, which, to be fair, if there's gonna be a chain brand store in the middle of nowhere, it's gonna be Walmart. But come on. Now, along with this, the movie starts very slow. It's a very slow start with this movie. Like, it's not like the Lego movie either, where it starts really fast and then pulls you in. It's a slow build-up, and it kind of grinds at times and loses your interest. Towards the beginning of the movie, the most interesting thing going on was this chess game that she's playing seemingly with a ghost. Like, she goes to bed, wakes up, a piece has moved. She comes home, hours later, another piece has moved, and she's slowly moving the pieces and playing a game of chess. This was the most interesting thing towards the beginning of the film. Things don't really, start picking up until the chess game effectively is over and we stop playing chess, and then the PKE meter goes off, and then we start pulling out all the old relics, like the ghost trap or the secret lab in the shed and the car. That shit is cool. But this movie takes a little bit too long to actually get to that cool stuff. Now, not only that, but when we actually do get to that cool stuff, the movie kind of splits into two separate storylines. Like, you got the brother who he's trying to hang out with this girl who ends up being our fourth. And then you have, what's-her-face, Callie, who's hanging out with podcasts and doing the really interesting stuff. And every time we cut over to the brother, it's like, no, go back to Callie, that's more interesting. Now, to be fair, we don't focus on the brother too much. And that's a point in this movie's favor. But it just slows the movie down. Go back to Callie. She's rebuilding a proton pack, and it's cool. Eventually, our two storylines do converge, and it's awesome. But that takes a while. It's like over an hour into the film until we finally get that. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, they don't really weigh down the movie all that much. Sure, like, it takes away from the entire experience, but it's not really that bad. After 2016 ruined the franchise, we could only hope that this movie would be able to pick up all of the pieces and fit them back together. And there I go with the pieces again. I give Ghostbusters 2016 like a 3. Fuck that movie. And I give Ghostbusters Afterlife an 8. Paul Feig could learn a thing or two from this movie. This is what Ghostbusters as a franchise needed to get itself back on track. They've been talking about Ghostbusters 3 for years. In fact, Dan Aykroyd was saying, oh, I wrote Ghostbusters 3 in hell. And that never really went anywhere. But this did. By the way, that Ghostbusters in Hell movie, that was real. That was gonna be a thing. He wrote that. That was not a joke. But this is what we needed. Not a tribute, not a rehash, not a rethink, not a remake, not a reimagining, not an all-female social justice virtue signaling rehash that ruins everything and kills Bill Murray. So you killed Bill Murray. But it needs this. It needed this. It needed a movie to come in and say, hey, we're never gonna have Ghostbusters 3, and we need to accept that. So instead, we're gonna do this. And if you're down for busting more ghosts with us, it's your choice. Just like it's always been. And my answer to that choice is a resounding yes. Because this movie's not a retelling, it's not a rehash, it's a celebration of Ghostbusters. It's a tribute to the life and times of Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman. And again, Ivan only lived long enough to see this movie turn a profit and gain some critical acclaim. You know what? That's kind of beautiful in a way. Ghostbusters is what really put him on the map as a filmmaker, and Ghostbusters Afterlife is his legacy. The man lived and died by the Ghostbusters. And now he's passed it on to his son, and they're making a sequel, which I'll be keeping an eye out for. I have high hopes here. It's not Ghostbusters 3, nothing ever will be, but this is a start. My advice, go find this movie if you haven't already. It's been out for a while, and while you're at it, go pick up the original Ghostbusters. And also go pick up Ghostbusters 2. You know what? Just watch all of them. Except the obvious one, of course. I've been saying through this whole review that there never really will be a Ghostbusters 3. But there is one thing that I've failed to mention through this whole review, which is the closest thing we are ever going to get. Ghostbusters, the video game from 2009, is more than just a Ghostbusters video game. It's a celebration of the Ghostbusters. We're never gonna get anything more fateful than this. This had the all-star cast of all 4 original Ghostbusters, a storyline made with pieces of the script for the canceled Ghostbusters 3. Even Harold Ramis is in this, recasting his role as Egon. And that just pretty much solidifies that we're never, ever going to get anything better than this. So if you really want a Ghostbusters 3, definitely check this game out. It's on Steam, it's on Epic, it's on pretty much every console ever made, even the Nintendo DS. I've bought this game 5 times across different systems, and I just bought the remaster. And you should too. And it is very likely that this franchise will never die. And you know what? I'm okay with that. If they want to keep trying to make movies, I'll be right here, reviewing them. So, do good. My name is Hunter, and I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Come on, Ray, I wanna sing the song. Come on. Come on. Piece of shit, come on! Bought this Fisher Price keyboard for like $2. Do it! Do it! Come on! Oh no, it's broken.